DeepEllumArtCo Afternoon Arts. Thank you for joining me. My name is Amber Crimmings. I'm the Artistic Director / Cat Herder at Deep Ellum Art Company. And today we're going to work on a little bit of creativity together. We're working on part 2 of our collage project. We did some cutting yesterday, so we're going to play around with trying to finish out our image and kind of figure out where we want to take this project. As you guys know, we host a variety of classes throughout the week with the exception of Sundays. So make sure you're taking a look at our schedule and seeing everything that we have to offer. We've got Mondays with our basics, our art journaling and art therapy on Tuesdays, wacky Wednesdays. Thursdays are our kind of throwback to elementary time / our great classes for the younger crowds. Fun Fridays, and then our Saturdays are for our long-term projects. And you can tell Doobs is getting himself all cleaned up and ready to be able to do this project with us. He does like playing around and watching us kind of play around with the paper and get everything cut up. So we're going to continue to play with this. Now I've got a board that I'm going to be attaching my entire collage project on. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to be using, if you remember, when we did our paper mache, we used a combination of glue and water in order to get our pieces down. Now you can use a little bit of watered down glue, maybe not half and half, but maybe 1 part or 2 parts glue to 1 part water. You can mix that up to make it a little runnier. I've got some Mod Podge, which works really great for collaging. It's what it was designed for. It's a glue-like both glue and sealant, so it gives it a nice kind of uniform finish. And I'm going to use this on one of these cheap, inexpensive wood boards. If you guys remember, I use these a lot for our quick little paintings when we're not doing stuff in our sketchbook. You can get these online, super easy, and they're super cheap. You can also find them at local stores around the area, craft stores, possibly Walmart sometimes, etc. I like these better than canvases because they're thin, they're light, they're easy to stack on top of each other when you're done with them, and so they don't take up a lot of room. And bright side, you can buy these as well in the exact same size as typical frames, small, that you can buy over the counter. You can pop out the glass, pop these in, boom, totally done and finished pieces of work. So I'm going to pop you guys down. And we're going to start working on this. Now I've got a bunch of stuff already that I cut out last time. So I kind of want to lay these out and play with them. Now, you know, yours is going to be totally different, but I just want to play around with the layout. Remember, I cut these out because I thought it looked really neat to kind of have this pencil on here and kind of like this head. So maybe we'll play around with it like that, like he's peeking out. I think that's fun. Maybe I'll cover up part of the top part of the head with the flowers. Oh, I like that. We can let some of it come off the page, as you see. I'm probably gonna want that to happen. I'm gonna scoot these flowers over so I've got most of the crown covered up. But I do want this guy to kind of overlap a bit. And so that's nice. That kind of covers up that seam, and it gives me a bit of that piece that will come off. I can glue this on here and then I can trim the side really easy once I get done with everything. So I kind of like that guy here. Remember, I'm going to lay stuff out and we're going to play with it in a bunch of different ways. Well, that's pretty cool too. Maybe we don't have to have that. Maybe we can give that more space, because I kind of like that with more space anyway. And then maybe if I have the city going through this crown here. Oh, that looks pretty neat, you guys. I like that. See how we're starting to get this real kind of fun look going on. I've got a bunch of random stuff. Now I'm just laying things out to kind of play around with them. Kind of get an idea of how we might want these guys to look. And maybe I'm not going to use everything, but, you know, it might be. Ooh, I kind of like that. The guy in the desk chained. I know, that's fine. We've got this lady here that I was like, I like the favorite position as CEO. I'll kind of pop her underneath the pencil though, because I like the pencil being on top. This also allows you to play with your idea of overlapping and what's on top of each other. This is really, really important when it comes to creating depth in your piece of work. Kind of take, for instance, this room that you see me in. You see me in the foreground, right? And you've got Doobs back here and the little books and stuff, and those are in kind of like the middle ground. And then the background is where you see things like pictures on the wall, prints on the wall, and all that jazz. And so when we're creating these kind of neat images, even though we're kind of skewing the balance of what's in the front and what's in back, and we're playing with different sizings, we're still wanting to create this cool just idea of, you know, an overlap. But maybe I won't use that guy. Maybe I will. I just don't know. You know what? I think I might put him here. I don't know. I kind of like that look. We'll just put him down smaller and shorter. I'm now going to have to do something with my background. But then, ooh, I think this matches that favorite position as the CEO. Maybe I'll put this little desk guy down here. Or maybe I'll, ooh, I like that. That's cool. That's fun. We've got our guy playing. I don't think we're gonna keep him. Now I'm just kind of playing around with these. This isn't like a set thing. I'm gonna want to cut out some more things. I got these little flowers here. I can put one on her lapel, and it looks like she's got a big old flower on her lapel. And then that'll kind of highlight and orchestrate, you know, those. And maybe we'll just kind of set this one somewhere out in space. And then, as a matter of fact, I've got another. We'll have those kind of play around. Maybe we'll look and see what else we've got to cut out and play with. I think I'm going to keep this as a beginning idea. I'm going to set this off to the side, and we're going to mess with cutting out some more things. I kind of like these guys too, so I think I'm going to cut these out because maybe this will make me want to go in a totally different direction. So I'm going to get these guys cut, and we're going to work on, you know, adding these into our project and theme. I hope everybody's having a good weekend and that we're doing all right. Make sure you're holding on to your magazines, because this is actually a really nice way in order to get some really cool projects done in. And we can actually take this concept of collage and we can add, you know, a painting into this, play around with this in order to make it more mixed media, which would be really, really fun. And so I'm just taking these guys, I'm just trying to get all these cut down. I'm just going to kind of cut them like totem poles, but right now I'm just going to keep the edges nice and straight because I'm really not for sure yet if I'm going to use these for this project, but I really like the look of this structure here, so I might want to revamp my whole project. I don't know, I like these Lego guys though, they're pretty cool. I kind of came across these in the magazine and I forgot that I had all these real neat Lego dudes that gave me some really cool kind of, I don't know, these might look neat as creating some sort of structure in here, or maybe even a border of sorts of crazy Lego faces. We might be able to do that. If they're long enough, that is. We'll play around with that after we get these guys cut out. You see, for the long stuff, again, we're using our scissors in order to ensure that we've got really nice, clean cuts that are hugging our items and that we're really not showcasing a lot of the outside negative space that goes around that form, because it helps us seat them into the piece more when you don't have those extra weird little negative space sections kind of floating around them. And if we decide for sure to use all the spaces for this project, then we'll go ahead and cut out all those extra insets. It won't take very long at all. And so we're just cutting things out. I'm using my scissors for my simpler, larger cuts here. So I've got all those guys taken care of. And so I've got these really cool poles. So I might actually be able to use, well, maybe not, but we could get a beginning for some of our framing on here. So I kind of like this. So maybe this will make us want to change up the project a lot, which is okay. We can change as we come across more things. Like, look at this guy. He's huge. I don't think I'd be able to fit him on my project though, because he's so big, but he's a really cool image, so I'm going to hold on to him for later for another one of my projects in the future. I'm also, I don't know, this little rocket ship's kind of cool, but I don't think I want to mess with that yet. I found these really cool big pictures. This is a really cool photography of cats in motion. Look at this. Isn't that neat? I think I got this from the Harvard Business Review. It was on command, and nobody has really recommended command and control leadership. Ah, there. Yeah. Pretty fun though, right? Yeah? Those are fun photos. Look at that one. Anyway, great photography. I don't know who the photographer is for this. I didn't see a Brian Smale. Microsoft via Getty Images is that guy. But anyway, I thought that was really cool photography. Isn't that neat? Alright, but I'm not going to use that because it's too big. That's really cool. That might be neat for a background. You know what? I may use this for a background because I really like how it's mostly white. I like that because I think I want to keep a nice white background for that. And that adds a really new, really cool kind of background design in there. So I think I might hold on to that. Ooh, this lady's cool. I like that. Mary Jo White. She was the former chair of the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. Anyway, that's a really cool. Let's go ahead and get this gal cut out. I like that with the glasses. It comes across as a teacher, etc. So we're just going to get this gal cut out too. And I'm just going to use my X-Acto knife here. These are magazine cuttings, so the paper's really, really thin. So what's cool is that you don't have to apply a ton of pressure in order to get these cut out. See how easy that is. And so I don't want to have to apply a ton of pressure because I'm more likely to cut the paper then if I do that. So I just want to be careful. Make sure I've got a really nice, just clean line, and I'm just kind of going through and I'm dragging it fairly lightly, and I'm paying attention to my image as I do this. Remember, I want to make sure that I am paying attention to detail and that I'm really trying to record this outside line really nice. These X-Acto knives give you a unique ability to be able to kind of track around these outside lines very easily. You see how I avoid my paper buckling up because then I start from the crook of the arm and then I can cut from there. I'm going to do the same thing here. Get the crook of the arm. And hopefully I'll be able to take those little pieces out. And then whammo, look how cool that looks once she's totally cut out. Now she's pulled out of context from her original environment. So now she can have that kind of look wherever. And I think it's cool because she actually will kind of match the other lady with a nice pop of red. Because remember, I'm trying to think composition. So I've got some really nice pops of reds and yellows. Kind of seems to be my theme. So perhaps for my background, I'm going to want something less white And maybe y'all want something that's more of a cool color. So perhaps we'll just play around with this. I think maybe this background might be a fun one to kind of mess with. So let's get some of this cut. I'm gonna probably try to just kind of follow around with the scissors a bit in order to get a nice boundary. And you know what? I'm just gonna... I'm cutting around my circles, so I'm kind of trying to take some artistic license with this. Actually, you know what? I'm going to use this. Artistic license with this in order to get some of these cut. I thought I was going to use the scissors for it, but it's not very helpful. So I'm going to use my Sharpie for this. And I'm just going to get these kind of cut around the balls. I think this will help me kind of get my background because this isn't quite big enough to fill the entire background. So I could cut just a straight line, but then I'd have a hard end, you know, kind of like this side. And I don't want to have that. I kind of want to create my own boundary. So really that's what I'm doing right here. Is I'm working on creating my own boundary. Which is going to help me kind of get some other things of interest into my background. I think this will work as a good contrast between my bright red and my bright yellow that I've decided that I want to be the core images for my piece. And so I'm just going around and trying to like capture as much of this image as possible without getting to the point that I have hard outside lines. I don't want to have that. So I'm being real careful because I don't want to cut the paper. I don't want to damage it. But see how I kind of made my way out to this kind of boundary over here. And so this will help me kind of farm out and get a nice kind of end. You see, this is a lot of problem solving right here because you're having to decide what to use and what not, and then how to make your outside boundary interesting. And so this is good practice for us as artists and as creators. And besides, it's always good to have those problem-solving skills. It's great practice for anybody to really play around with. And again, with magazine clippings, really what do you have to lose? So look, when I take all that stuff off, oh my gosh, look how neat that looks now. Now because I cut an interesting edge, now this edge is going to look really neat on top of anything that it's on. So we're able to take that and kind of transform that in a different way. And I went along the whole length of it because maybe I'm not going to use it for the entire length of this. So I'm going to want to, you know, have some extra space and room. Okay, so I think we've done well enough. We can also play around with that and have that. Ooh, yes. All right. I really think that we're going to have fun with this. I think that's going to work fabulously. All right. So you know what? I think we're going to get done with cutting for now, and I'm going to start playing around with some gluing. And we're going to start trying to get part of this, you know, going. Yeah? I'm going to have you guys take a look. You can tell Doobs is super excited this project's coming together. Now again, we're going to work with our Mod Podge. If you have a Canon of Mod Podge, you haven't used it in a while, you need to make sure that you shake it really, really good. You also want to make sure that you're using a nice brush that you can easily clean out. and make sure that you're cleaning it out super quickly. So you want to have a brush close by that's fairly soft so that you're not, well, this one's not soft enough. I want a really soft floppy brush. That way it'll hold that glue real well, and if it's soft, it's not going to tear my magazine paper because I don't want it to tear on me. And I'm going to have some water available so I can wash my brush off and then clean things up if I need to. Okay, so I'm going to scoot all this stuff off to the side. I don't really want to, well, you know what? Yeah, I don't really want to mess with that right now. What I do want to mess with is I want to decide what I want to do for my image here. So I'm going to glue things on, and I'm not going to worry if it goes off the board. Once everything's dry, I can flip the board over and use an X-Acto knife and cut all the excess off. So I'm not going to try to bend it around the corners. I don't really care if it goes off the corners. I'm just going to make sure that I have a really good covering of Mod Podge on my paper before I begin. And so since I'm kind of, well, I might want to actually cut this little green guy down because I want to make sure that I've got this guy oriented well enough. This guy's going down the center. I really, really like this because that guy's got to stay there. So I think we're just going to stick with this in the center. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of run my fingernail along each side. It's going to kind of dig down, so I'm still going to have an overlap, but I'm just going to get rid of some of this excess. That way it's not all floppy and it doesn't get in the way and I don't accidentally pull it off the board. That way I just have a little bit of excess going. So that makes for really, really cool. Look at that. That's already dynamic and interesting looking. Okay, so this guy has to go first. Definitely with collage, we have to work backwards to forwards. So I'm going to go ahead and take my Mod Podge, and I am going to start getting this on my board. So I'm going to get a thin layer here. Again, we want to be careful with our brushes. I have a nice soft brush. When I'm going to my edges, make sure I'm going away, because if I come back the other way, it'll create, look, it's a big mound of Mod Podge. We don't want that. And so if we go away from our edges, it'll help keep us from creating those really big sloppy runs of glue, which is really what this is. Okay, I'm making sure it's nice and smooth. I don't have a bunch of Mod Podge, layered up and where you can see that. See how you can see the little puddles of it? We want it all nice and smooth. We don't want any puddles of it. I don't want to see brush strokes. And we got to work fast because we also don't want it to dry. I'm going ahead and putting Mod Podge on my entire board because I want to go ahead and prep it for both. Because I'm going to quickly get both of these painted on here. So I'm just going through, I'm getting this guy all smoothed out. Remember, if you're working on a table that you love and care for deeply, make sure you protect it. You don't want to get Mod Podge all over your kitchen table if that's where you're doing this. So put a piece of glass down, put some plastic down, do something, yeah? Okay. Alright, the first one I'm going to do is I'm going to get this guy glued down. So I'm going to scoot him. I'm going to give myself a little overlap here, but not much. You see that? Not very much overlap. And I'm going to spread from the center. I need to make sure I don't get my hands in the glue while I'm doing this. That's why it's actually good that I'm off the paper. I'm off the board. Now it's going to wrinkle up a little bit on you. That is part of the process, and that's also why you do not want to overly glue on the board, because the less wet we get the paper, the less it will wrinkle. So we want to make sure our layer of glue is nice and thin so that we're saturating the paper as little as possible while we're also gluing it down. So I'm just kind of pushing on this. I'm rubbing it, making sure that we've got a nice clean connection, trying to make sure that I don't get my hands all over the Mod Podge as I do that. Alright, so now I may actually scoot this down even further. I didn't realize how much cooler that looked with the thing. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. Now, when I get this down on here, I've got it glued onto the board, but see right here where it's floppy? Where it's not glued on to the paper below. So I'm going to have to add some more Mod Podge in this area, because now I'm going to have to glue on top of this paper. Notice how thin this is. Thin. Thin. See how thin this is? I'm brushing it out super thin. Now I'm going to take these guys, and I'm just going to rub them down. I'm not going to get along the edges, because that's what my brush is going to do for me once we get there. And so if you have a fan or something running, you can always dry this in between in order to make sure that your guys are taken care of well. I'm going to actually take this because I don't like this really big floppy piece here. So I'm going to go ahead and get a good cut off on here, fairly close. But I'm still leaving room so that I can go in with my X-Acto knife in order to clean these up more and kind of hug them up onto our piece. See how cool this is looking so far. Got a really awesome kind of setup going on. Okay, so remember, I found this other lady, so I was like, ooh, she'll look neat. This is pretty, I'm not going to push anything down. I'm just playing around with these ladies. I kind of like that. Well, oh, I like her over here better. I think that works well. And I like her right here. That's a nice little balance of my reds, because I want to play with those. But then we've got these guys. I don't know. I've got a lot of fun things here, though, I'm telling you. Oh, I like her on top of the city stuff. That's pretty neat. Okay, maybe we could stick with that. Maybe that'll work. Alright, alright. Maybe we could do these guys on top. Ooh, I like that. That's looking pretty neat. I'm just saying, you know, we're going to scoot this down. Scoot that down. And we've got to, I don't want her legs to go off into oblivion, so we got to have something. Oh, look at that. Okay. Okay, okay. Well, I want to keep all those data numbers in. Ooh, I like how this flower could do that. I like that. That's fun. We get her down here. I like him there. That's pretty fun. Oh, you know what we could do? We could cut her hand out of here and set her hand up. That might be fun. What else do we have? We have this guy. No. So we're just playing around. We could use just part of that skull right there. That would also be fun. Playing around. I like that. What else do we have going on here? I've got a wonderful little desk guy. Ah, perfect. I like that, especially since she was on the security cancel. That works out pretty well. Let's see. Can always kind of Oh yeah, that'll be fun. I like that. Okay, so we're starting to get an idea of how we want this, or I'm starting to get an idea of how I want this all set up. Didn't I have something else that was red? I thought, oh, I had those 3 things that were red. Maybe I do want this to bounce somewhere else over here. Yeah, these guys are super fun. I like this, being able to play around. We'll get her flower back on her lapel, because I did like that. I like how we've got a fun little layout here. Again, this collage is about just playing around with images, seeing what fits. You know, we don't necessarily have to throw everything on here that, you know, we found, but we're just kind of playing around with these ideas. I don't know, I kind of like it where it's cleaner without a ton of stuff on it. I think I want these flowers in this to kind of be on there super solid and get her here. I think we're going to focus on getting this stuff down, because this is really stuff that I think for sure I'm going to want in this order, and I can layer all the other stuff as we go. So I've got to figure out exactly what order I have this stuff layered, because I've got a lot of stuff kind of interlocked with itself. And so these guys kind of go through here, so I need to remember this whole section of my pencil I don't want to glue yet, because I want this to go underneath. So it starts to get complicated. I'm going to set these guys off to the side. I'll probably do that up here. And I'm going to remember that those are together. So look, I've got my lady here. I've already got my pencil where I want it. She's totally on top, so I can take her off. Which means I can glue underneath where this pencil is. And we can really get a nice kind of set for this. And I'm going to overshoot it, which means I'm going to put glue on way more surface area than what my pencil is, just because I want to make sure I've got it thoroughly glued down, because I am going to be gluing other things on top of it. Okay. So I got these guys. I want to make sure I've got her in the right spot. So she really is going to be going about right there. Which means I'm going to have to get, oops, I put my brush way too far in my Mod Podge. Which means I'm going to need Mod Podge in about this area here. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to get a nice even coating. I'm going to spread this out as thin as I can. I'm using a super, super soft brush, you guys. I don't want to thoroughly saturate my magazines, because I don't want them to wrinkle real bad. So I'm going to get my glue down. I'm going to get this person nice and rubbed down. I'm going to be careful to avoid the edges, because I don't want to tear my paper. So I shall get those edges set down as soon as I get the rest of my other stuff glued on top of it. Okay, so now I'm going to glue this. We need to make sure we've got these 2 people kind of glued on at the same time. So I'm going to glue this because look, I've got the whole back side of my flower here that I don't want glued down. So I'm actually just going to work, kind of get a boundary right there. And I'm going to get some of my Mod Podge on here. Let me even get the beginning of my flowers in there. Oops, I slid it down too far. So I'm going to pick that back up, put it back on there where I want it, get it pushed down. Remember, I've got a nice kind of flat, because I did a straight line where I stopped with the glue. So now I'm going to work on getting some Mod Podge into this area right here. I'm going to again be careful and make sure I'm not loading up too much. So I want to make sure I'm being real careful with all this. and that we're being precise. You know, I'm getting this guy kind of partially glued down, pushed down. See, I'm going to have the flower overlap here. And so I need to make sure that I've got a little bit of glue on top of that as well, so I can get all this stuff attached. Nice and clean, nice and straight. And so now I'm going to pick up the rest of my pencil because I want this to be underneath it. Remember, I'm doing this kind of complicated. And again, this is why I did this as a long-term project. Sure, collage isn't super complicated. It doesn't have to be. However, it can be. And so this kind of helps you guys figure out how to play around with the overlapping. You know, just because something's in front of something in one instance doesn't mean other things are going to overlap it later. So you see how I'm getting that pencil kind of pushed down, getting the rest of that in. And we're really trying to get our magazine pieces just really nice. Oops, we didn't get it underneath the flower here. We forgot. See how I'm missing glue in this area? So I'm just going to shove a little glue underneath, and then I'm just going to go away from the edge. Always away from the edges as we make sure that they're stuck down real well. And see how cutting out even this little negative space lets a bit of that background peek through, which again helps her seat into the entire scene a lot better. Okay, so we're doing pretty darn good. I'm going to go ahead and get our lady looking at us sternly. Over here, again, super, super thin. I'm going to get her completely covered up and pushed on so she's nice and on there. And then I'm going to make sure that all those edges are down. Got a little part I didn't get glue on right there. I'm going to make sure that's nice and pushed down. Yeah, we're doing good so far, you guys. This is going to be a super fun piece. I love how we've got that coming down. We've got our little dudes here. You know what? Maybe ooh, I like that. We'll do this guy upside down off that line off the buildings. So I think we'll put that little dude chained to the desk right here instead. I like that. We'll get that pushed down. Remember, super thin spots of Mod Podge. If you use a lot of it, your magazine will shift and move around. So if your magazine's shifting and moving around, that means you're using way too much Mod Podge. Don't do that. Stop it. Stop doing that. Okay, we're going to get this guy glued down. You see I kind of laid it down and it picked up a bit of the newspaper, so make sure you're just careful with these. And I'm going to make sure that he's completely covered down. And look, you can see a little white where the Notch Podge is. That's okay, guys and gals. It's going to dry clear, so you don't really have to worry about it as much. I'm going to take this little rocket that I've got going on here and get a little bit of Mod Podge put in right there. We're going to get that going. And, you know, I think that this is a fairly good kind of stopping point. So I'm actually going to take some Mod Podge, thin layer, all the way around, and I want to seal the entire thing. What this will do is this will give us a nice uniform look, meaning you won't look at how the light shines off of it, and you won't have some spots where you can see that glue was put on there, this Mod Podge, and spots where it's not. So we want to make sure we've got a nice uniform layer, and this will seal everything and make sure that it's all on there nice and solid like. And so I'm just going through and getting a good amount of this. Not a good amount, but a thin amount. And making sure our entire piece is kind of covered. And I'm going to take a little hair dryer to this because I want to show you how we're going to flip this around and finish it. Now I'm going to put my brush in my water because I want to make sure that I don't have that glue drying on it. So I'm not going to leave it out at all. And I'm going to use this for a minute, so it's going to be kind of loud for a second. Hey Bill, hey Linda, happy you guys are hanging out. Woo. Blowing things everywhere. I'm going to get this guy all dried off. Hot setting on my dryer. It's an old broken hair dryer. Perfect. Hold on to one of those. They're great for art projects. So I think that's far enough in getting our piece pretty dry. It's nice and dry. We've got a nice finished piece, and right now it looks kind of ratty, and we've got some other things going on. So let's go ahead and pop you guys down, and I'm going to flip it around. And so with it flipped around, I'm actually going to go in here, and I'm just going to run my X-Acto along the edge of this, upside down. And that should give us some nice cuts. Now, I might have torn the paper there. It was a little wet still. That's all right. We can fix that. Just go slow. And you'll be able to get all those pieces off. Let me get the rest of this here. And you just want to hug that edge. And if you see it start to pull the paper, just stop, look at it, like right here, I started to pull the paper a little bit. I can cover that with some paint, but I want to go and cut my excess, go in the opposite direction. So if you see your paper starting to bundle up, just stop. Don't cut anymore, immediately stop when you see it bundle up. I'm going to pull that out because I'm going to be able to fix that when it comes to paint. I may still put a border on this. We may paint one on. I don't know if we'll have time, but we can always play with that. I mean, you can do all kinds of fun things with collage and mixed media. Oops, I didn't get all that cut off. I must have had more than one layer. So I'm going to get the rest of that cut off. Oh, and that gives me a nice kind of solid. That's solid. Solid. And so I can go in if I need to. Like I have a little bit of dark blue in here that I kind of messed up on. I think I've got some dark blue here that I can just go in. And we can play around with some stuff, you know. I don't have to stick with this. Remember, we can turn things that are mistakes into part of our decoration here. So I'm just going to go in and create these little flower-like kind of shapes in the background. And maybe I will make these into flowers, little boo flowers. But we can start playing around with patterning on here with our paint. We can play around with highlights and all kinds of things. So you can take this up to another level and really just start fitting in more words, fitting in more things that give you some really fun kind of design elements. And so it's also another great way, if you've got tears on the sides, etc., you can integrate those in ways that could kind of help you finish out your entire project. This turned out to be a really fun project. I really enjoy collaging. I think it's a really great way to take simple materials that we already have at home, and we can think about creating our own surrealist kind of landscapes and ways of life. You know, we've got crazy world around us right now. It's kind of fun to have a crazy world that's fun and not just crazy. And so that we can kind of take these feelings of topsy-turvy and kind of apply it to our projects as well. I'm really happy everyone's here kind of hanging out. I see we got a couple viewers. Thanks for hanging out with me. Make sure you take a look at our archived audience, our archived videos, all of our past classes. We have a lot of them accumulating and gathering up. This is going to be our last day on this. This was just a part 1 and part 2 project. We'll probably play around with weaving for the next one. I'm excited to play around with some more textile, and we'll work on making like a little mini version of a rug or tapestry wall hanging. We'll probably use some rustic sticks in order to kind of hold that taut. So that'll be kind of fun to play around with. Make sure, as always, if you guys have ideas or things that you want to learn, materials you'd like to understand, images you'd like to learn how to paint, or techniques, please make sure that you're letting me know so that we can come in and we can try to create some classes for you. As always, take a look at our virtual art gallery. We help service and work with not only community but local creatives. We've got work by local DFW artists throughout our gallery available for sale. Things as low as $25 for some beautiful prints that are small, and then we've also got beautiful original pieces that are large and great complements for your interior spaces, whether they're personal or business. Please remember, I'm always here to help you with those curations. I offer specialized curated services for your spaces. We also offer artwork for rental. So if you have business spaces or personal spaces that you want to switch out work, this is an economical and new concept way of being able to host work in your room without the entire dollar and price tag, which also allows you specifically for businesses to create a brand new environment, because if you're switching the art out, what we've learned at ArtCo is it makes the whole room feel differently. And so my services can help you achieve that, and then also help you keep your space feeling fresh. And then also, you know, if you're an operating business like a restaurant, etc., walls can make you money. So ArtCo also hosts satellite art galleries. So if you've got a business that's operating and you're trying to find new ways to make revenue, well, this is a wonderful way to help support local artists. Have someone like me come in, handle all that stuff for you, and then have your walls not only make you money, make us money, make everybody money, and then help the community get connected with local arts even more, which is always great for community, because our artists always do a lot in order to add to our enjoyment of life. Just look around, whether it is TV, media, social, clothing, pictures on the wall. It's all done by artists. It's all designed at some point by them. So this is a really great way for us to continue to grow the support, because, you know, times like this, artists who are entrepreneurs, this is a particularly rough time for people like them. So these are great ways in order to share this stuff out. So thank you guys again for taking a gander and creating with me. It's good for the mind, body, and soul. And I will see you guys back on Monday at 3 p.m. That's when we'll be doing our Back to the Basics class. I'm very excited to do that one. That's like our Art 1. We don't do finished projects, but we go over basic skills and techniques, focusing on our elements and principles of art, so that we can, you know, increase those tools in our toolbox that help us then create things better and be creative more, which is a really good tool set that helps us in a lot of other areas outside of art, business, and resiliency, and it also helps us, you know, bring a little smile to our own faces and others. You guys have a wonderful weekend. I hope that it's blessed. I hope that you find things that you find joy in, whether you're having a great weekend or even a rough one. But please always make sure that you tune back in and let us be a part of your day. You guys have a wonderful afternoon, and I will see you next time.